I'm Ali Zendrian, founder of A to Z Communications, and this is the Brand Stories podcast. This is where we discuss everything related to marketing, public relations, and communications. We're kicking off this year with two powerful chief marketing officers, the first of which is Gordy Abel, CMO at Dynasty. He'll share with us what it's like helping advisors create their brands as they become independent and how Dynasty's brand has grown throughout the years. This is going to be the episode that kicks off 2026. So yay! Happy New Year and thank you for doing this.
Awesome. Well, Happy New Year, Ali, and thank you for having me. It's great to be here and appreciate kicking off the new year with you.
Thank you. As the first question that I ask everybody, what's your favorite brand and why?
Loaded question, because I love and have so much passion for our Dynasty brand. But if I were to think of maybe another brand, and I think you and I may actually share this, but I'm a huge Disney fan. And for many, first and foremost, I think it's a brand that lives their purpose in everything they do. And I believe, I think I read it once, Disney's purpose is to entertain, inform, and inspire people around the globe with unparalleled storytelling. And if you think about it, they have built a brand that does that at every touch point for all of their stakeholders, from their cast members to children to young adults, parents, grandparents, right? I mean, their stakeholders feel that brand in everything they do. And I was talking with a close friend who has children, and he was sharing a Disney experience with me going on a Disney cruise. And he said, Gordy, I wasn't, really knowing what to expect, but the way that they engaged with him and his family before the cruise, on the cruise, after the cruise, he was like, I felt the magic. I felt it being engaged and inspired, and not only him and his wife, but his kids. And he's like telling me all about this. And he goes, and by the way, that helped me spend more on the boat and buying costumes. But I was sitting there thinking, as he was telling me the story, not only was he engaged and inspired, but he was an advocate for Disney. And so I think they've just done such a wonderful job at living their brand, being maniacal about their brand standards and how it shows up. You talk about a brand that lives its purpose through every touch point to every stakeholder every day. I think it's just a wonderful case study to look at.
Absolutely. And obviously you have good taste because yes, we absolutely agree. That's my favorite brand too. So it says a lot about the Disney cruises, like you said, because when you think of Disney, you think of the castles and the physical locations of each of the parks. And so for somebody to be able to feel that and you're on a boat, not necessarily having arrived at your destination, but just in the middle of the ocean, that says a lot.
Yeah. And, it's a brand that has both emotional and functional value to people who are engaging with it. And I think if you can find the intersection of that and make people realize it, that's marketing gold.
Absolutely. What do you feel like Dynasty as a brand represents? Like if you were to give the elevator pitch of who Dynasty is compared to every other RIA out there, what would you say that they are?
Look, we have to live our purpose too, right? And I think if we think about the core of what we do every single day, we help independent financial advisors of integrity build better businesses and better serve their clients. Yep. That's it, period. We're maniacal about that. All 180 plus employees at Dynasty believe that. We take a very client-first approach in everything we do. And there's not a conversation that happens around the hallways of Dynasty where we're not helping our clients build a better business and better serve their clients.
Love it. That's great. So how do you build in those elements of, like you were saying with Disney, there's storytelling. So especially in Dynasty's case, so there's Dynasty and then there's all the little pieces. How do you make that cohesive?
Well, just so quickly, for those who maybe aren't familiar with Dynasty, we help advisors really in kind of four types of advisors, really. Those who are looking to go independent. So they're leaving kind of the big bank or institution, and we help them, you might say, break away and start their own independent RIA. We also help existing RIAs who want to engage us to grow their business over time. We help teams who maybe don't want to start a business, but break away and join an existing RIA in the Dynasty network. And then we help maybe existing RIAs who might be looking to somehow monetize their business. They may need capital to have a buy side or sell side event to grow, right, and monetize what they built over time, their enterprise value. So if I were to think about that first segment, right, a breakaway team, they're coming to us really with a blank sheet of paper, right, from a brand perspective. They have lived under the mothership, right, building their business for many years. And I often call that the land of no, right, because they're told no, they can't own their own brand. No, they can't do their own messaging and positioning. They have to use the mothership. They can't do PR. They can't own their own website. They can't be on social. So there's not a lot of understanding with those teams in terms of what owning a brand can do in terms of helping them build enterprise value. So when they come to Dynasty, we're not putting them under the Dynasty brand. We actually believe they should own and build their own unique brand in the marketplace. So that's a big mental shift. And I say that's moving from the land of no to the world of yes. So yes, let's create and shape your own brand. Yes, let's define your own purpose and values. Yes, let's create a culture that's uniquely yours. And we go through a lot of that work up front to help them establish that brand platform.
Are there like a series of questions that you ask? Or I can imagine it must be daunting for somebody who, like you said, has never had to think about what their personal or their firm's brand is. And now all of a sudden it's, let's create one and let's make it magical. How do you go through that and take somebody through that journey who probably has no clue what they're doing?
So I've been with Dynasty now for actually it'll be 10 years next year, next May, which is pretty, gosh, time flies. And with that, I've had really what I consider, the honor and the pleasure of now helping launched, I think, just over 47 new brands on the Dynasty platform in the past 10 years. And oftentimes you're right. These advisors, they don't know what they don't know when it comes to brand and marketing because they've been told no for so long. And a lot of the questions that we may get asked out of the gate are, what's my website going to look like? Can I do social media? I've never talked to the press. How do I do that? A lot of very kind of channel or marketing tactic specific questions. Yep. What we do in our first engagement, especially with those firms who are breaking away to start their own firm, is we walk them through a first step, which is about establishing their own unique brand DNA and core messaging. So here we're really digging into understanding their purpose, right? Their why. Why do they exist? We get into talking about things like values, what's at their core, what lives in their heart. We talk about their key stakeholders. Who do they serve? That's employees, that's clients, that may be their local communities that they live and work in. So it's a process that we go through to establish that brand DNA, because it becomes the foundation for all of the work that we do ongoing. And it helps them learn how to make decisions from a brand-led perspective that gives them a unique position in the marketplace over time. And that's, quite honestly, that leads into things like naming, visual identity, all of that upfront work. And it's a pretty special kind of moment when you go through the process and you choose the name and trademark clears it, and you create the logo and the visual identity system for the first time. And Allie, I have to tell you, it's so special for me because when they see that for the first time, it's a manifestation of everything they've been dreaming about, right? Everything they've wanted to create, everything that they see the opportunity in, right, for their firm and their clients and their business. And I've had instances where teams will see it for the first time and they hug each other. I've seen tears of joy. One female advisor, she was so excited with her new name and logo and brand. She did cartwheels down the hallway. I mean, it really is like, it's so amazing to see what that work can do and how it impacts people.
Yeah. Wow. I can imagine it must be akin to naming a child or whatnot, that you're bestowing upon them
It's
this
your
honor.
baby.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. Oh my gosh. So how do you, because I feel like a lot of times in marketing with financial advisors in particular, obviously not Dynasty because you're doing a great job defining them, but you see the lighthouses and the we do comprehensive wealth management. That's lovely, but like literally everybody else does that. How do you steer people away from the things that it seems like for whatever reason they want to do and into something that's actually impactful?
Allie, if I see one more team go out there and say we simplify the complex, I'm like, right. There's a lot of discussion right now, especially with the advent of AI, around needing to be authentic. I think that word of 2025 was authentic. Be more authentic. Show yourself up. Be authentic. From my perspective, it's hard to be authentic if you haven't spent time really thinking about your purpose, your values, your culture, and your business strategy and how those things align, and then taking that work and saying, how does this translate to our key stakeholders,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
it takes partnership. We have a whole team at Dynasty that's there to help advisors through that process. But when we get through it and we clarify purpose, values, culture, and strategy, that
Mhm.
allows us to create messaging that speaks specifically to the stakeholders for that firm. And it moves us away from simplifying the complex, but it starts to get into messaging that's maybe more relatable to the type of ideal client or prospect that an advisor have. That could be veterans, it could be people going through divorce, it could be business executives at pharmaceutical companies on the East Coast. I mean, we need to get that specific, right, when we're talking to who we work with, because otherwise you're in the sea of sameness, right?
Yes,
And we know that doesn't work.
exactly. So that's a very good point that you made because you're right. If you're not speaking the way that your clients or your prospects are would hear something or are talking about themselves, then it doesn't resonate. It doesn't connect. So do you advise then advisors to go out and talk to their prospects and clients to like figure out that language, or how do they come up with the term that we need to use here is XYZ instead of ABC?
So, great question. And there's not, I would say, a scientific approach to getting it right. So, definitely understanding kind of the enduring need of your clients is important, right? What do they need from you in terms of the engagement, and understanding that why in terms of what keeps them up at night? What are their goals? What's unique about their financial situation, maybe in terms of their family or their lifestyle or who they work for. All of those things are critical in terms of understanding that need and that why of your clients. Some people will do it through surveys, some people will do one on ones. You may be able to test certain messages in the marketplace through digital platforms. So there's a lot of ways to understand that stakeholder why. And then we use that and go back and align it to purpose, values, and culture to create messaging that resonates.
Yeah. So among the big pieces of news in 2025, it feels like OpenArc basically like broke the internet. Like there was just it had such a launch and such reverberations throughout the industry. And obviously that's among the things that you're working on. So what is that like working with that team and developing that as part of Dynasty and developing themselves?
Yeah. I mean, OpenArc was the pivotal milestone of 2025, certainly for Dynasty, certainly for the OpenArc team. And I think it shows now to the industry that moving to independence isn't kind of an experiment, isn't it is a movement, and it's a movement that's here to stay, and it's a movement that's here to grow. And I think the launch of OpenArc is proof of that. OpenArc joins the Dynasty network of over 55 firms now and counting, and it was a milestone. And I think it showed for Dynasty, right, that we are now equipped to help advisors at any size, at any scale, at any life stage of their journey understand how independence can really power the growth of their business. The OpenArc team, I'll tell you, I've had a chance now to go to Atlanta with them a few times as they've
Oh,
launched, and everything from the office space to how they're engaging with clients and with each other. They've embraced their brand and their purpose, and the energy is just, I get excited just thinking about it. And
good.
so we're excited to work with the OpenArc team as we are with all of our clients across the Dynasty network. But I think, again, it is just such proof of concept that no matter where you are, who you are, what your goals and ambitions are as an advisor, right, the independence model can help power the growth of your firm.
Yeah. So to that end, so those advisors who are at brokerages and wirehouses and are hearing the no's, do you think, is there anything within the realm, and obviously everybody's compliance department is different, but is there anything that you would suggest for some of those people to do that maybe they should even think about their personal brand or engage ahead of going independent?
Yeah, I will say, Allie, what we often hear most from teams that leave the big banks and wirehouses and go independent and join Dynasty in our network. And after they launch and their brand is in the marketplace and clients are reacting and the resource partners are supporting it and they're in their local communities, every single one comes back to us and says, why didn't I do this sooner? What took me so long to pick my head up and understand that we should have done this years ago? And so I often think through that myself. And everybody has that moment in time, right, where they've had enough. They're using antiquated technology. They don't own their client relationships. Their pay is going down, right? They don't own their value. And so they pick their head up and look. And we're here to support them through their due diligence, understanding the value of independence, and understanding the value of building a brand and brand equity over time. And so when we think about enterprise value, brand equity is a huge component of that because it helps them engage better with their clients. It helps build culture with employees. It helps them define how they think about prospecting for inorganic and organic growth. Now, because they're coming from the land of no, there's still a lot of question marks. This is going to sound like very simple advice, but if you're thinking in any way, shape, or form about creating a new firm, you have to have ideas around what you want that firm to be. It could be a name. It could be how you want to create your own culture. Start to capture that information. Start to get it out of your head and whatever works for you. Because when we go through that intake process for brand DNA and core messaging, the more that we can understand what's in your head and your heart in terms of what you want to build, we as partners can help you create something that's really special.
Yes, that's a very good point. And like you said, it does take effort in that you have to really think through it and do that sort of internal examination of like, who am I and why is it that I'm doing this? But you're right. That's not asking a lot of somebody to at least put the ideas out there.
Well, and oftentimes I think people put it upon themselves to, create the perfect name or the perfect purpose. And I often say, look, that's our job, is to help you with that, right?
Yeah.
We often talk about outsource to grow, and it takes, a team of specialists, creative people, designers, production to really help bring it to life. So don't let that be overwhelming for you. You know in your heart and your head what you want to build. Bring on the right team to help you build it.
So across the 10 years that you've been at Dynasty, how do you feel like the brand has evolved and met the moment?
When I joined Dynasty, I think I was employee number 38.
Nice.
We were at, I want to say, around 15 to 16 billion in assets under advisory. Here we are now, just celebrated our 15-year anniversary in early December. And we're over, I think now, 180 employees. We are north, I think, of 120 to 130 billion plus in assets under advisory. We've relocated our offices, our headquarters in 2019 to St. Petersburg, Florida. Monumental growth in terms of the business, our team, planting our flag in St. Petersburg, Florida. All of that, again, is in service of our clients. And so I will say that oftentimes would have said in the early days, our brand kind of punch above its weight, kind of going after the large institutions. Well, with the shift to independence, it's a new weight class. And we are leading in that space in terms of being the platform that advisors are leveraging in a way to help grow their businesses. So I think our brand has been consistent and sharing that message. But we are now in a place where we can amplify that in so many different ways, given the platform that we built over time.
Great. So you had mentioned earlier AI, and so I feel like that was the 2025 buzzword. How do you feel like that's been incorporated into marketing so far, and do you think that that's going to change or amplify in 2026?
You can't be in a discussion today without talking about AI. My inbox every morning, I get 35 to 40 emails from people who are coming up with a new agent or workflow process or an ability to look at data, manage client experience, increase efficiency, drive more revenue. AI is touching and empowering everything. And I think in 2025, there was a lot of exploration around AI that people were looking at. I think 2026, and Dynasty's leading this right now, will be the year of implementation. And so I'm excited because our Chief Technology Officer, Leslie Norman, has been working across Dynasty to build out what I think is the premier integrated wealth tech platform that helps our advisors run their businesses better, be more engaged with their clients. And quite honestly, we're taking the due diligence, the integration, the implementation, the deployment, out of their hands, right? They don't need to do that work. We're building it for them, right? And it's advisor-led, advisor purpose-built. And that impacts marketing too. So how we're thinking about leveraging AI on everything from creative development, workflow process, thinking about its impact on AEO, media planning and buying. It's incredible in terms of helping marketing be more efficient, drive towards KPIs and metrics. Now, is it perfect? No. Do we have things and challenges we need to work through in terms of how it can deliver? Yes, but I'm extremely bullish on what it's going to do next year, and especially given the platform that we built to leverage it.
So for any advisor, whether they want to join Dynasty or whether they're wherever they are, what do you feel like is one thing that they could do in 2026 to help their marketing?
There's a lot to unpack there because it's a big question, right? But what I would say just in general is, I take advisors back to, who they are and what they do, right? Meaning they help their clients build better financial plans and futures through investing. So what I often say to advisors is do not be a marketing day trader, be a marketing investor. Oftentimes, you'll see advisors day trade, right? They'll chase the shiny object. I need to do a podcast. I need to do a webinar. I need to be on social. And they're chasing kind of quick returns, whether that's new clients or amplifying their brand. And I can tell you it doesn't work. Being a marketing day trader does not work. Being a marketing investor, where you step back and you do proper planning as you would with your clients, set goals for the year, talk about how you can achieve those goals through the mix of paid, owned, earned, and shared. Think about things you can test that are realistic and achievable, and bring on the right partners to help you do it. And that takes an investment of time. It may take an investment of capital, and it's certainly going to take an investment of testing and learning. But I think when you just shift your mindset from being a day trader to an investor, marketing will show returns over time to help you grow your business. So I think that's a great place to start. Now, there's a lot of things that come out of that you have to work on and do, but that simple shift in thinking is a big first step.
You're absolutely right, because there are so many people who just say, yeah, you know what, like you said, let's do a webinar, and then do one for whatever reason, whether it's not planning or the day was wrong or whatever it is, it fails. And then well, I hate webinars. Webinars are stupid. Well, yeah, but did you really give it your best? And how about you try another one and see if that works? Yeah, absolutely.
I will say, just to close that point out, advisors who, understand certain concepts around, building the brand over time, that it needs to be unified across all channels. When it's not, you create what I call brand friction, and are, again, thinking about themselves as being brand stewards. And like Disney, maniacal at every turn, every touch point, every piece of communication, doing the internal education that's needed so everybody can show up and live the brand. That's absolutely critical, right? In terms of, again, building long-term enterprise value.
Absolutely. Well, you gave us a lot of gems to think about and hopefully for advisors to deploy in their marketing. So I hope everybody was taking notes, if not listening. Gordy, thank you so much for doing this and looking forward to seeing how you and OpenArc and Dynasty does in 2026.
Allie, well, this was awesome. Thank you for having me. Happy holidays, and I look forward to more in 2026 together.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.